Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
It's been nearly 70 years since the attack on Pearl Harbor. During World War II, over 500,000 Americans of Hispanic ancestry courageously answered our nation's call to duty. We present this special recognition of 7 famous Americans of Hispanic ancestry who proudly served. Ted Williams blasted his way into the record books, hitting an astonishing 406 in the 1941 season. His mother, May Benzor Williams, was of Mexican descent. Of his Mexican ancestry, the Hall of Famer said that if he had had his mother's name, there was no doubt that he would have run into problems, considering the prejudices people had in those days in Southern California. From 1939 to 1960, Williams was a 2-time American League Most Valuable Player, led the league in batting 6 times, and won the Triple Crown twice. A 19-time All-Star, he had a career batting average of .344 with 521 home runs and was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1966. Williams joined the U.S. Marine Corps, became a 2nd lieutenant, gained his wings, and served as a stateside flight instructor. Before he could see action in the Pacific, Japan surrendered. He also served in the Korean War, flew 39 missions, received an Air Medal with 2 Gold Stars, and was promoted to captain. During the war, 670 Latinos were bomber pilots, fighter pilots, or flight officers, including Brigadier General Robert L. Cardenas, who served as a B-24 bomber pilot. Cardenas was awarded the Air Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters. He was shot down over Germany in March 1944 and was awarded the Purple Heart. During World War II, over 12,000 Latinos were awarded the Purple Heart for wounds suffered in combat. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Cervantes, a B-17 bomber pilot who flew 26 combat missions over Germany, was the recipient of the Airman's Medal, 4 Air Medals, and the Air Force Commendation Medal. Latino flyers received 773 Air Medals during World War II. 33 Latino pilots recorded aerial victories, including the following 5 aces. Commander Eugene A. Valencia, Jr., a Navy fighter pilot, recorded 23 air victories in the Pacific during World War II. Valencia's decorations included the Navy Cross, 5 Distinguished Flying Crosses, and 6 Air Medals. 74 Distinguished Flying Crosses were awarded to Latino flyers during World War II. First Lieutenant Oscar Francis Perdomo was an Air Force pilot who shot down 4 Nakajima Ki-43 Oscar fighters and a Yokosuka K-5Y Willow biplane trainer on August 13, 1945. The 5 victories made Perdomo an ace in a day and earned him the distinction of being the last ace of World War II. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for extraordinary heroism in action and the Air Medal with an oak leaf cluster. During World War II, Latinos were awarded 126 Distinguished Service Crosses. Lieutenant Colonel Donald S. Lopez, Sr. was an Air Force pilot assigned to the 23rd Fighter Group, the Flying Tigers. During 1943 to 1944, Lopez shot down 5 Japanese fighters. Captain Michael Brezas, an Air Force pilot, arrived in Italy in 1944 to join the 48th Fighter Squadron of the 14th Fighter Group. Flying a P-38 aircraft, Brezas downed 12 enemy planes within 2 months. He received the Distinguished Flying Cross, Silver Star, and Air Medal with 11 oak leaf clusters. During World War II, 1,409 Silver Stars were pinned on Latinos. Lieutenant Richard Gomez Candelaria was a P-51 Mustang fighter pilot. With 6 aerial victories to his credit, Candelaria was the only pilot in his squadron to make ace. Most of his victories were achieved on a single mission on April 7, 1945, when he found himself the lone escort protecting a formation of B-24 Liberator bombers from at least 15 German fighters. Candelaria single-handedly destroyed 4 before help arrived. He was shot down by ground fire and spent the rest of the war as a prisoner of war. In World War II, 2,561 Latinos were prisoners of war. Perhaps the most famous, yet least known Latino pilot was U.S. Navy Ensign Manuel Gonzalez. He was one of the first Americans to be killed in action in the Pacific. Flying off the carrier USS Enterprise, which was not in Pearl Harbor at the time of the surprise attack, Ensign Gonzalez was shot down around 8:30 on that fateful Sunday morning by Japanese aircraft while attempting to land at Ford Island. In addition to American Latino pilots, 54 fighter pilots of Mexico's 201st Fighter Squadron flew their P-47 Thunderbolts alongside our 58th Fighter Group in the Pacific Theater. During World War II, 9,831 Latinos were killed in action. Another notable baseball player was Joe Gonzalez, who pitched for the USC Trojans, then Boston Red Sox. He served as a lieutenant in the United States Navy, along with 4 of his brothers who also fought for our country. Manuel Ortiz, born in El Centro, California in 1916, did most of his fighting in an 18-foot square ring. He was the bantamweight champion of the world from 1942 to 1950. He defeated notable boxing legends like Lou Salica, Jackie McCoy, and Harold Dade. Ortiz served in the U.S. Army in 1945. In 1996, he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Another famous boxer was U.S. Army Private Salvador Baby Sal Solis, who beat 3 all-Navy bantamweight champions. Latinos fought in every major battle in the Pacific and European theaters, including the following who served in the United States Army. Sergeant William Sanchez was stationed in the Philippine Islands on December 8, 1941, when the Japanese attacked. For 6 months, Sanchez and thousands of Americans held out on Bataan, then Corregidor Island, under daily bombardment from over 120,000 Japanese soldiers. In May 1942, he and his fellow American and Philippine fighters were captured. Sanchez was held as a prisoner of war for over 3.5 years. Private First Class David M. Gonzalez, who served with the 32nd Infantry Division in the Battle of the Philippines, was killed in action in Luzon. Gonzalez was the first Los Angeles County resident to receive the Medal of Honor. During World War II, 13 Latinos were recipients of the Medal of Honor, our nation's highest award for valor in combat. Private First Class David Fuentes fought with the 1st Cavalry Division in the Battle of the Philippines and participated in the occupation of Japan. He helped save the life of Japanese Prime Minister Hideki Tojo, who tried to commit suicide. Tojo was later tried by an international military tribunal, found guilty of war crimes and atrocities, and sentenced to death. Sergeant Alejandro Ruiz served with the 27th Infantry Division in the Battle of Okinawa and was awarded the Medal of Honor. Staff Sergeant Ismael Villegas served with the 32nd Infantry Division in the Battle of the Philippines. He was killed in action in Luzon. Villegas was awarded the Medal of Honor and the Silver Star. Private First Class Eutiquio Martinez fought with the 96th Infantry Division in the Pacific's biggest battle, the Battle of Okinawa, which lasted continuously over 3 months, resulting in over 12,000 American deaths and over 100,000 Japanese deaths. Private First Class Edgar Griffin was born in Mexico. He served with the 502nd Airborne, 101st Division, and parachuted in the midnight hours behind enemy lines at Normandy on D-Day. Griffin received the Presidential Citation with an oak leaf cluster, the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, the Belgian and French Croix de Guerre, and the Belgian Fourragère. Whoops! This American of Hispanic ancestry did not fight overseas, but she gave her all for the cause. Margarita Carmen Cancino, better known as Rita Hayworth, inspired our boys to keep fighting for the red, white, and blue. Sergeant Jess Samaniego served with the 82nd Airborne Division, parachuted behind enemy lines at Normandy, and later fought in the Battle of the Bulge. Samaniego received the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. During World War II, 2,807 Latinos were awarded the Bronze Star for valor in combat. Private First Class Andrew Ortega served with the 49th Combat Engineers of the 7th Army Corps during the D-Day landing at Utah Beach in Normandy, France. Ortega received the Bronze Arrowhead Medal and the Presidential Unit Citation. Sergeant Maurice Juarez was a tank commander with the 756th Tank Battalion. He lies buried in foreign soil in southern France, where he was killed in action on November 5, 1944. Antonio Mendez served with the 47th Infantry Regiment in the Rhineland, the Ardennes, and the Battle of the Bulge. Mendez was awarded the Silver Star and the Belgian Croix de Guerre. During World War II, our allies awarded Latinos 39 medals for valor. Although most people were dancing to the music of the swing band, some preferred the more sophisticated movements of ballet and modern dance. New York, the capital of dance and theater, beckoned José Arcadio Limón. In 1928, he left his Los Angeles home for Broadway. During the 30s, Limón taught modern dance at universities and on Broadway. In 1937, he created his first major choreographic work and went on to produce many classics of modern dance. Limón once described his vision of modern dance as, quote, a state of mind, a cognizant recognition of the necessity of the art of the dance to come to terms with our time. Limón served in the U.S. Army from 1943 to 1945 and choreographed several works for the Special Services. In 1946, he founded the world-famous Limón Dance Company and Foundation, which continues to this date. In 1949, Limón created the Moors' Pavane, a masterwork that captured the drama and passion of Shakespeare's Othello in a timeless portrayal of love, jealousy, and betrayal, which remains one of the most performed modern dances in the world. The New York Times hailed Limón as, quote, the finest male dancer of his time. On December 7, 1941, José's brother, Pete Limón, survived the attack on Pearl Harbor while serving as a radio man aboard the USS Swan. He later saw service at Guadalcanal, Bougainville, and the Admiralty Islands. Pete Limón was awarded the Air Medal and the Presidential Unit Citation. Also in the world of fine arts was Raúl Morín, who fought with the 79th Infantry Regiment and was wounded in the Battle of the Bulge. While recovering, he documented the exploits of Mexican-American patriots in his book, Among the Valiant. In 1913, San Diego greeted Maria Dolores Hernandez when she arrived in America on a steamer from Mexico. She came with her brother and mother to join her father, José Hernandez, in Fullerton, California. Hernandez entered nursing school and in 1940 received her registered nurse certification. She was the first Red Cross nurse from Orange County to be called into active service during World War II. She later transferred to the Air Force, attained the rank of major, and retired after 20 years' service. Major Hernandez invested wisely in real estate and created a personal estate of financial wealth, but never forgot the true wealth of education and good health. Upon her passing at age 90, she endowed the California State University Fullerton Nursing Department with nearly $1 million to be used as a scholarship fund for nursing students. And she gave $750,000 to the nursing program at St. Jude Medical Center, Fullerton, California. During the war, Latinas joined the WACs and the Waves, including Verneda Rodriguez, who was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico. After high school, she attended Teachers College in Chicago before leaving for Sweetwater, Texas, where she completed training and became one of the now famous Women's Air Force Service Pilots, WASP, of World War II. Captain Carmen Friday served in the U.S. Women's Marine Corps along with her two brothers, Sergeant Art Friday and Lieutenant Raul Friday. Doris Zavala served in the Women's Army Corps with the Far East Command at Fort Des Moines and in Tokyo, Japan. She was awarded the Good Conduct Medal and the World War II Victory Medal. Many Latinas served on the home front, producing military equipment, and became known as Rosie the Riveters. A few of the many thousands who worked in defense plants included Julia Perez Aguirre, who was employed at the Douglas Aircraft Long Beach plant, Virginia Garcia Elias, who worked at the Long Beach shipyards, Sarah Aguirre Miranda, who was employed at Vultee Aircraft Downey plant. Cuba gave us Desi Arnaz, whose full name was Desiderio Alberto Arnaz y de Archa. He joined the U.S. Army in 1943 and directed the USO programs at a military hospital in the San Fernando Valley, California, until 1945. In 1940, he married Lucille Ball, and in 1950, the couple founded Desilu Productions, the studios that produced numerous television hit shows such as Star Trek, Mission Impossible, and others. Of course, he starred with Lucille Ball in the I Love Lucy series, which is still in daily syndication today. Other Latino veterans who were in television included Sergeant William Lansford, whose mother was Mexican. He fought with the U.S. Marines at Midway, Guadalcanal, Bougainville, and Iwo Jima. He was awarded the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, and the Navy Commendation. He wrote screenplays for the television series Bonanza, Star Trek, Chips, Ironside, and others, and is currently a screenwriter and producer. Cesar Romero Jr. was an American film and television actor for almost 60 years and was the Joker in television's Batman series. In October 1942, Romero enlisted in the U.S. Coast Guard and served in the Pacific Theater. Aboard the Coast Guard manned assault transport USS Cavalier. He saw action during the invasions of Tinian and Saipan. Most folks have never heard of Private First Class Guy Gabaldon, who was born and raised in East Los Angeles. His life story, however, was portrayed in a Hollywood feature film. Gabaldon learned to speak Japanese as a teenager while being around a Japanese-American family. At age 17, he joined the Marines, and in June 1944, fought with the 2nd Marine Division in the invasion of Saipan. After the Marines established a beachhead on Saipan, 18-year-old Gabaldon would enter the jungle by himself and each night would convince a few Japanese soldiers to surrender to him. One night, he came back with over 800 soldiers and civilians after coaxing the Japanese colonel to give up his force. Gabaldon was forced to end his nightly forays when he was severely wounded in action. Although initially nominated for the Medal of Honor, he was ultimately awarded the Navy Cross. The exploits of the 5'4" Gabaldon were portrayed by 6'1" Jeffrey Hunter in the 1960 film Hell to Eternity, which also starred David Janssen and Vic Damone. Many other films were made about World War II, starring or featuring Latinos who were not veterans, including Apocalypse Now, starring Martin Sheen, Guadalcanal Diary, Back to Bataan, and Guns of Navarone, starring Anthony Quinn, Battleground, starring Ricardo Montalbon, The Dirty Dozen, featuring Trini Lopez, and Bataan, featuring Desi Arnaz. Thousands of Latinos served in the U.S. Marines during World War II, including Marine Corporal Alfonso Moreno, who served on Guam and was taken prisoner on December 8, 1941. He was held as a prisoner of war for over 46 months in a POW camp in Japan. Moreno was one of the longest held prisoners of war of World War II. Sergeant Jesus Soto served with the Fleet Marines aboard the USS New Orleans and survived the Pearl Harbor attack. He later fought in the battles of Coral Sea, Midway Island, Guadalcanal, Tulagi, New Guinea, and the Aleutian Islands. Corporal Isabel Cisneros fought with the 5th Marine Division at Iwo Jima and participated in the occupation of Japan. Cesar Chavez's birthday, March 31, is Cesar Chavez Day, a state holiday in 8 states. Many parks, cultural centers, libraries, schools, and streets have been named in his honor in cities across the United States. He was the founder of the United Farm Workers Organization, which brought needed rights to our farm workers that plant, cultivate, and harvest our fruits and vegetables. In 1944, Chavez joined the United States Navy and served for 2 years. Next year, the cargo ship USNS Cesar Chavez, CTAKE-14, will be launched in San Diego. Many Latino veterans became leaders in the civil rights movement, including Dr. Hector P. Garcia, a physician and founder of the American GI Forum. Captain Garcia commanded a company of combat engineers in the European battlegrounds before being transferred to the Medical Corps. He was awarded the Bronze Star and 6 Battle Stars. In 1968, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, our nation's highest civilian honor. Congressman Ed Roybal grew up in East Los Angeles, then served for 30 years as a Democratic representative from California. He was also a member of the Los Angeles City Council for 13 years. During the war, he served in the Army as an accountant for an infantry unit. T5 Alfred Aguirre served with the 1901st Engineer Aviation Battalion of the Army Air Corps in the Battle of Okinawa. Aguirre was awarded the Bronze Star Medal. In 1949, he organized the Veterans and Citizens of Placencia, which successfully lobbied to integrate the public grammar school in Placencia, California. Tech Sergeant James O. Perez served with the 4282nd Quartermaster Depot Company, 1st Cavalry in the China, Burma, and India Theater. In 1965, Perez became a trial court judge in Orange County, California. Judge Perez still sits on the bench today at age 85. As is clearly evident in this presentation, Americans of Hispanic ancestry are justifiably proud of the noble tradition of defending our nation when called upon to do so.